Hi guys, welcome to this new video on JavaScript. In this video, I'll be making an awesome snake game, and the purpose of this video is to show you how we can solve complex mathematical problems using JavaScript or any other language. You can follow the same algorithms, same logic that I'll be using in JavaScript in other languages as well. So I have actually created this app and it's running on my browser. Let me show you quickly. It's a snake and we can actually use the arrow keys of my keyboard and I can pick the food, and you can see that if I go down it will come up from the top, and if I go the left it can come in from the right. So this is the logic, and the movement of snake, the positioning of its head and body is something the logic using an array, using objects, that is very important if you want to become a good programmer. All right, so I'll be creating 3 files in it: HTML, CSS and JavaScript, and I will show you how we can create such kind of games along with how we can solve such kind of problems if we have to do it in any of our project. All right, so I'm gonna create a new file here. First of all, I will name it index.html. Let's create another file and I'm going to name it css styles.css, and then I'm going to create app.js file. All right, so the HTML and CSS will be too minimal. So in the HTML, I'll start off with the doc type. Let's create an HTML. Okay, and inside HTML, let's add a head, and inside the head we can have the title. So we can have the snake game in JavaScript. Okay, and I need to add the link to my CSS file which I have created. So it is the styles.css, and this is the file which I have created here. After this, let's create a body element. Inside the body, I'm going to create a div, and it will have an ID, and let's name it game container. All right, and then inside it there is an element provided by HTML called canvas, and I can give it an ID. Let's say the game canvas. Okay, let's give it a default width, and I'm gonna give the default width to it the 400, and let's give it a height 400, and that's it. Next, let's add a script which I have added inside the body. So I'm going to add the script type text slash JavaScript, and then I need to add the source to my app.js file which I have created. All right, so that is pretty much it we need to write in our HTML. Let's try to add the type as well. So I'm going to give it a type text slash CSS. Okay, now let's come inside the styles.css file. I'm quickly gonna add few styles here. So I'm going to add the body, and this is actually the snake game from another project, other code. I'll be loading up a new browser tab to actually see how our app is looking like. First of all, let's add the font style. I don't want that. Padding, and then I can give the background color to it white. Okay, now we need to add some styles to our game container and then the canvas. So game container, and it will be the position relative. Let's give it a background size cover, and again I'm gonna give it a width of 400 and height of 400. Okay, and I can give the margin as well to it auto. That's pretty much it for this one, and let's add the canvas now, and the display block margin 0 auto, margin top we can give the 100 pixels, and then the background color uh, I can give it a blue color to it. So let's give, you can give the hexa code as well. So let's give the 2E6BC8. Okay, so let's try to run this HTML. I'm going to right click. I'm using the live server extension of VS Code. So I can right click on the HTML and click on this open with the live server. It's going to open up a new tab on the browser, and this is how it's looking like. This is the canvas, and currently there is no snake, no food, no movement, because we have not written any JavaScript. Alright, so it means that our CSS and HTML are working fine, and this is the JavaScript file. We need to write code to create snake, add its movement, and a lot of other stuff. Alright, so I will be actually closing the other tab, this one, and I will only be working on this tab. In my app.js file, first of all, I need to initialize few variables. I need to create a grid size first. Okay, I can name anything, and I'm gonna give the 20, and the 20 means that there can be the 20 rows and 20 columns actually. All right, based upon the width and height of my snake as well as the food. Okay, let's create the canvas size, and canvas size I have given it the 400. I need to create a variable as well, because I need to manage the snake position and the food positions as well. So let's add the snake color and then the white. Let's create the food color, orange. Okay, so now let's create canvas document dot get element by id, and the id that I have given to this canvas is this game canvas. Okay, so then I will be actually giving it a value whether I want to create a 2D game or a 3D game. So I can give the ctx canvas dot get context, and this is the 2D. All right, so now we have initialized few variables and get the reference and instance for the canvas, and it is the 2D game. Now I'm gonna go and create the variable for the snake positions of its head and its body. And in order to create that, let's create a variable, and it is of type array, and this array will have multiple objects, and I'm going to give the x 14 and the y 10. I can give any values to it. All right, one thing I would like to explain here, that if I only give the one object, it means that I'm only going to generate head whenever the game starts, but I don't want the head to be generated whenever the game starts. I want some body, some extra segments to be added behind that head of that snake. Okay, and this 14 and 10 values of x, you can consider that this horizontal line is representing the x values 1 to 20, because I've given the 20 grid size, and this vertical lines representing the y of this grid. Okay, so I need to remain within the 20 grid size for the position of x and y. So that's why I've given the 14 and the y for the positions of the head. Now this is the head. I'm going to add the comment. Okay, so let's create few of its body segments. So I'm going to give it x y 10. I want to keep the y same, but I want to change the x 13. I want the next segment of that snake body to be one step back than the head of the snake. Okay, so segment 1. All right, I'm going to copy this line 2 3 more times, and I'm going to change its value to 12, 11, and then the 10. This is the segment 2, segment 3, and segment 4. It is not yet created. I'm just initializing the variables based upon the logic which I'm building to run the snake, and in adding the initial position of the snake whenever the game starts. Okay, so let's save this file. Now Let's create a variable for the initial position of the food using the same grid size. So I'm going to write the X. I can actually randomly generate the position of the food whenever the game starts or whenever the snake picks the food. But this is the initial value, and this food variable is the what I'll be using to regenerate the position of this food segment. Okay. Uh, let's create few more variables. Dx. I'll be using these variables to actually change the position of the snake when it will be moving. This is the logic which I have actually built. So I'll explain more about these once I'll carry on writing the code to build this snake game. So then let's create another, the score 0. Initially the score will be 0. All right. uh, let's create another variable, game loop actually. Okay, and this game loop is going to handle the movement of the snake. um, all right, so we are done with creating few variables. Now we need to write the logic. Now first of all, what I need to do is I need to add an event handler that whenever I refresh the page, I need to press any key from the keyboard. Okay, and when I press any key from the keyboard, the snake should be visible and should automatically starts moving. Okay, so I'm going to add the document dot add event listener, and this event listener will be of the key down. Okay, and against it I'm not going to write a function directly. Instead I'm going to create another function, so handle key press, which I need to create yet. Okay, so let's create a function for this. So I'm going to write the handle key press. Okay, so this is going to take an event, and this event is something which I will be using to detect that which key was pressed, whether it's the up arrow, right arrow, or down, or any arrow from the keyboard, in order to handle the position of the snake. So first of all, I'll be using the game loop variable which I have created above, and this variable is going to contain the reference to the set interval. Set interval, I will be giving it the value of 100 milliseconds, because for the snake position I want the snake head and the body position to keep on changing after every 100 millisecond. I can change it as well, but let's give it 100 milliseconds. So I'll be using the set interval, and inside it I can give a function, but I will not be giving a function directly here. Let's create the separate functions for each of the logic we are going to be creating, and I'm going to create another function. So let's give it a name, update game. Let's give it the 100 millisecond. All right. Then first of all, I'm also going to detect if the game loop is not undefined. Sometimes it might give you an error. So game loop uh, is equals to undefined. Actually I have to detect the undefined, because once the game loop get the reference of set interval, I don't want it to be initialized again and again whenever any key is pressed. All right. Then after this I'm going to detect the key, that which key was pressed. So I'm going to write the key event dot key. Okay, it's actually the E in the function, and then I'm going to detect if the key was the arrow up. These are the predefined keywords, you cannot change its name. And also I'm going to check if dy is not equals to -1. Okay, I will just explain you why I have written this, and as you can see that initially I gave the position dy dx to 0. I'll be giving it and detecting these variables in order to see which way the snake is currently moving, whether the snake is moving up, down, right, or left, and that's why I have created these variables. And I'm checking here that if the key is up arrow and the dy is not equals to -1, it means that I'm detecting that only trigger the if condition logic and come inside this if condition if the snake is not already moving upward. If it is moving right or left, then it needs to actually trigger and execute the logic which I'm going to write inside. So dx is equals to 0, and then the dy I'm going to give it -1. Okay, I'm changing the position based upon the arrow up key for the x position of the snake and the y position of the snake to 0, -1. So I'm actually maintaining the three values: 0, -1 and 1. All right, let's create else if arrow down, and I'll be checking the dy. Let actually it has to be 1 here for the key up, and it has to be -1 over here, because we know that the horizontal line is x and the vertical line is y from the top left corner of this canvas, and we are just building the logic based upon the incrementing the number of grid size to the for the x and the y. Okay, so here I'm going to change the values dx equals to 0 and the dy equals to 1. Okay, now let's create another else if for the arrow left. Else if arrow left, and for the left side I'm using the dx variable because x is on the horizontal line of the canvas. So dx is not equals to 1, and if it is not equals to 1 and arrow left is pressed, I'm going to change the value of dx to actually -1, and I'm going to change the value of dy to 0. Okay, lastly I can actually detect that if the key arrow, I cannot directly write the else because user can actually press any key alphabets as well from the keyboard. So I have to actually detect if the correct arrows are being pressed on the keyboard. Okay, so dx is not equals to -1. Inside it I'm going to change the values of the dx equals to 1 and then the dy equals to 0. Okay, make sure you don't do any mistake based upon the logic which we are building. So 0, -1, 0, 1, -1, 0, and the 1, and then the 0. Okay, so I'm going to just save it. I have actually created this function. You have seen that update game which I need to create now, because every milliseconds, 100 milliseconds this function needs to triggered, and it's going to handle the movement of the snake based upon the positioning of these variables which we have created over here based upon the key press which we have written over here. Okay, so I'm going to create an update game function below this. So let's create a function. So update game, and it will not take anything currently because we are not passing in the above function. And inside it, first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to define the position of the head, and the position of head would be in the form of x and y. So I'm going to create, you can see that above I've already created this array of objects based upon the positions. So I'm going to make some changes based upon these positions. Initially I'm going to draw the snake based upon these positions and handle the movement based upon these key values dx and the dy. So x, and I'm going to write the snake first index dot x plus dx. Okay, and then the y, it has to be this. So the extension that is suggesting me some code when I try to write something is the tab 9 AI assistant. You can actually install it in your VS Code. It really helps. And for other extensions, you can check out my video top 5 extensions of VS Code which I have explained in my channel. Okay, so make sure you write the exact logic which I have written over here. After this, let's add a comment, and I'm going to write the wrap around the canvas. Okay, here I'm going to write an if condition. Let's try to detect if the head x value is less than 0. Then I'm going to make the head value. It means that if the snake is moving towards left and it goes out of the canvas, then we need to bring up from the right. It means that we are changing the position of the head and its segment, the body, based upon if it's moving out of the canvas. So everything that I'm going to write under this comment is going to handle this. Head dot x equals to canvas size divided by grid size minus 1. Okay, and let's write the else if, and I'm going to write the head dot x greater than equals to canvas size divided by grid size. Okay, and if this condition gets true, let me quickly analyze if it's actually going to work. Head dot x greater than equals to canvas size slash grid size, and then I'm going to write head dot x equals to 0. Okay, because if it's moving right and goes out of the canvas, we need to change the position of x of the head of the snake to the first column actually. And then we need to handle the the top movement of the snake. So let's try to handle that. Else if I'm going to write head dot y is greater than less than 0 actually. And if it's less than 0, I'm going to change the position of the head y to the bottom of that canvas. So head y equals to canvas size divided by grid size minus 1 actually. Okay, so let's create the else if for the if the snake is moving down. So head dot y is greater than equals to canvas size head size. So tab 9 is quite intelligent, it's suggesting me the code. So head dot y greater than equal to canvas size, and I'm going to write head dot y equals to 0. All right, so I think it's going to work. If it's not, we are going to come back and analyze the logic which we have written. And after this, let's create a comment check if the snake touches its own body. I'm not going to work on the food as of now. I want to handle the snake movement first. Okay, so I'm going to actually iterate through all of its body, and you can see that it's the array of objects. So I'm going to check all the objects including the x and y position in this loop. So I'm going to start off with let I equals to 1 and I less than snake dot length. Okay, so inside this loop I'm going to check if snake I x equals to head dot x and snake I dot y equals to a head dot y actually. Okay, so let's detect if it's true. Then what we are gonna do, we are just going to return it, and we also need to call a game over function which I have yet to create. So I'll just be commenting as of now. So game over, I'll just be commenting. I'm not going to handle it as of now. Let's handle the snake position first of all. So after this loop, I'm going to add uh, update the snake position and uh, based upon the position. So I'm going to write the snake dot unshift head. So it means that whenever the snake is moving in any direction, I'm going to shifting all of its object position by 1. So it's going to handle it based upon the head position which I've already done and created above. Okay, and then I need to actually handle the scores and the generate food. I can actually write the snake dot pop here, and then I'm going to write the ctx dot clear rect 00 canvas size and then the canvas size. Okay, the reason I'm doing it because whenever the snake position gets changed, I want to clear the in previous printing of the head and the body of the snake. If I don't do that, the previous segments and the position will keep on visible on the canvas of our uh, page or a web app. Okay, and after this we actually need to create a function, and I'm going to name the function uh, draw a snake. So I'm going to write draw snake. All right, so in order to draw the snake, I'm going to create a new function. So draw snake, let's write the snake dot for each segment. I can give anything to it, index, and then uh, it has to be an object actually, like this. And if index equals to 0, then ctx dot fill style equals to I can give it any value. This is the head of that snake. Okay, so I can give the dark blue as the color of the head of the snake, uh, else I can give fill style, and then I have actually already defined the snake color above. You can see here, um, here is the white color. Okay, if we want the color of the snake head and the body same, we don't need to write if else. We can only write this one line of code, ctx dot fill style. Okay, so after else I'm going to fill the color of the rest of the body of the snake. So I'm going to write the ctx uh, fill rect, and then I'm going to write the segment dot x multiply by grid size, and then the segment dot y multiply by grid size, and then the grid size, and then the grid size. Okay, let's save it. And I think the snake will be visible now if I run my project. Let's refresh. Let's try to press any key. And yes, guys, you can see that the snake is moving and it's visible. And if I go down, it's coming up from the top. And if I go right, it's coming up from the left, and it's working pretty well and it's looking good. Now we need to handle the food logic, picking up the food, and handle the scores as well. All right, so let's do that. And in order to do that, first of all, I'm going to create a function, and let's create a function, and I'm going to name it uh, draw food. Okay, so for the food, I'm going to use the food color. So first of all, I'm going to fill the style for the food, and I've already given the color to the food color at the top of this file. And let's fill it up. So fill rect food dot x multiply by grid size, and then the food dot y multiply by grid size, and then the grid size, and again the grid size. Okay, so if I save this file, it will draw the food, but I need to call this function right now. So where we can call this function actually, we can call it in the update game actually. So I'm gonna go up. So here we are actually snake.pop. This is a JavaScript function for the arrays. I can actually check if head.x equals to food.x and head.y equals to food.y. Okay, then I'm going to increment the score by 10, let's say, and then I'm going to call the generate food This is the function which I need to create, and from that function I will be uh, calling that draw food function, I think. But let's try to build up the logic. We have done a lot of calculation, so I'm taking some time to actually rethink the logic which I'm building. So I'm actually writing an else statement here, and inside the else statement I will be actually entering this snake.pop. All right. Uh, and then it's going to print up that snake, the draw snake. We can actually draw the food here, which I have actually created this one. So it's going to draw the food here, and this is the generate food. This is the function which I have yet to create. So let's try to create this function as well before actually testing. Let's try to see if it gets drawn or not. Let's refresh. Let's try to run. So you can see that it has actually drawn at this position. It means it's working fine, but currently it will not be removing up because we have not handled it. Okay, so now I'm going to create a new function, and I'm going to name it generate food. So let's create that function, generate food. Okay, make sure you spell it just like this, and inside it I will be using the math.random because I want to generate the random positions for this food. Okay, so I'm going to use the food variable which I've already created above. You can see here this one. Okay, and then I'm going to write the x math dot floor, and then the math dot random inside it, and then I'm going to check that the position of the food should not exceeds the canvas size. The canvas size is 20, so I can write the canvas size divided by grid size. And just like the x, I have actually need to manage for the y. So math dot floor, math dot random, yes, and then the grid size, it's going to work just like the above. Okay, and I don't think we need to do anything inside it. It will be called directly from here. And let's try to generate the food whenever the game loads as well. So I'm going to write the generate, call the generate food function from outside as well. Okay, so I think we are almost done with our game. Let's try to see. Let's refresh. Let's try to hit this, and you can see that this food position has been generated randomly. And let's try to pick this up. All right, so it's getting picked, and the snake length is getting increased as well. This is looking so awesome, and our logic is working fine. There can be few mistakes inside it, like there is some flickering in the movement of the snake, and you can also increase that. You can increase the set interval value which we have actually written, 100 milliseconds currently. Okay, so it has actually stopped here. We have not yet written the function. We need to detect that if the head of the snake actually attach with any of its segment. So here you can see I commented this function which I wrote here. So I'll just be uncomment that, and let's create a game over function above the update game. So I'm going to create the game over function here. And inside it, first of all, I need to clear the interval for the game loop variable which I have created. I don't want my snake to keep on moving once the snake is uh, actually head is attached with its body. Okay, once it's done, I need to clear the canvas, so I can use the uh, clear rect 0 0. Width height should be the canvas size, canvas size, and then the canvas size. Okay, and then I can actually fill up the style ctx dot fill style equals to white, and this is the color of the text which I will be showing for the scores, and to show the text game over. Okay, so ctx.font, let's give it the font style and the size, so I can give it 30 pixels, and then the Arial. Let's give it the ctx fill text, and then I'm going to give the text to it, so game over, and then I need to give it the position based upon the grid size which I've generated. The position, the top left position of the first character of this string, it is the G currently. So it shouldn't go out of that canvas. So I'm just going to give some random positions. So I hope that it will not go out, because I know that the canvas size is 400 by 400, which I have given. So let's give the scores, and the scores are stored in the scores variable, which we have actually initialized above. And I'm going to use this notation, so score and then the score variable. Okay, so let's give its position now. So let's 35, and then I'm gonna give it some 70, 170 position. All right, so now let's refresh our game, and now let's play this game. So our snake is moving. Let's try to pick up some food over here. And now I'm going to attach it. All right, so you can see that I attached its head with the body, and it shows that the game over score equals to 440 actually, because I'm incrementing each food picking by 10 here. You can see here it is. And then I'm actually detecting if the snake is attached with its body. I'm calling the game over function and then returning. So our game is working fine. It can be improved a lot, and the purpose of this video was to actually again how to build up this complex logic using maths, using the intervals and creating different functions and a lot of these stuffs. If you have liked this video and if you have learned stuff, don't forget to subscribe my channel. And if you want to learn some advanced concepts of JavaScript, also check out my playlist on JavaScript. I have covered up a lot of tutorials that can help you become master, become pro in the JavaScript. And also I have the playlist for the Angular, React, Node, Express, MongoDB, for you to become a full stack web developer using the JavaScript libraries and the frameworks. So don't forget to subscribe my channel and comment below if you have any question based upon the logic which we have built. And if you find any mistake in this game, you can actually share it with me in the comment of this video. Hit the like button, subscribe with video, and see you in the next videos. Thank you so much for watching.